Wave 3 listens. Elder Advisors is all about this. And they, by the way, I think it is copyrighted. Don't go broke in a nursing home.
Registered trademark.
Thank you very much. Yes. And really, but on a serious note, if you have a senior loved one who's transitioning into there's a lot of things you need to know. It may be more complex. That's why you need to call Elder Advisors. We have a couple of the experts here. The Executive Vice President, Denise Ice, joins us. Denise, welcome.
Thank you.
And also Steve Langdon, who is an attorney with McNeely-Stephenson Law Firm, and your expertise is in elder law, right?
Elder law. That's what I do.
All right, let's talk a little bit before we talk a little more to Steve. Denise, if you would, your role, obviously Executive Vice President, but that means you have to juggle a lot of balls, right?
Well, my background is that for almost a decade, I worked as a supervisor in the long-term care Medicaid department. So I saw families on a daily basis whose loved one was going into a nursing home and they needed some help. You know, how can we pay this $7,000 to $9,000 bill a month? In most cases, 9 out of 10 times, I gave them bad news. I told them they had to spend everything that their loved one had worked their entire life for. They had to spend all that money down at the nursing home. And then once they were essentially broke, per se, then they could come back and I would see if they were qualified for benefits. Now I'm able to be on the other side of the desk.
And look at you smiling. See,
yes.
Because you found out there is an answer, right?
Right. When I was a supervisor for Medicaid, it was a miserable position because I did give people this bad news all the time. I was called every name in the book. It was very depressing. Now I'm able to use that knowledge. I'm on the other side of the desk. I'm able to give them those helpful hints that I could never give them before. You weren't allowed to give any kind of financial advice to anybody that was a client. Now I'm able to tell them the rules that are in place, that have always been in place, but now how they can work to their advantage.
Oh, I like that. So
yes.
The fact is, although that job, like you said, was hard, it was heartbreaking.
Yes.
Obviously, you're very compassionate, and when you have an answer, now things have totally changed. The work, I would imagine, Denise,
is extremely rewarding.
There you go.
Extremely.
Because you're changing people's lives, and maybe they thought they were going to get this, this catastrophic news.
Yes.
And it ends up being positive. Okay, Steve, I'm going to ask you. Okay, we talk a lot on this show when Larry comes on about protecting assets. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I know it may sound elementary to you, but that may be a little bit more complex than people think, right?
Oh, I was just talking to a young woman today. Her mother, it's terrible. You know, she's got dementia. She's in a assisted living facility. Mom doesn't realize there's anything wrong with her, but she's spent down. She's got approximately $20,000 left. She also has some land set aside. And talking to her, she was just at her wit's end. She had no idea what to do. She thought she had to lose everything. Well, that's just not the fact. Truth is, she can save quite a bit of money, get her mom the care that she needs, don't have to go broke in that nursing home, and can save a lot to set it aside so when mom needs those things that we all need as we get older, whether it's hearing aids or glasses or blankets or a new TV, whatever it is, there's money that's there to pay for that. So she's not constantly dipping in her own pocket to pay for all these things. And that's why Denise here, I mean, I can't say enough about her and Elder Advisors. I mean, to have a 10-year Medicaid specialist there to bounce ideas off, just to talk to, just to make sure that my plans, are going to work in the real world. She's just fabulous.
In the Medicaid world and in the legal world, things are changing too. Things evolve, laws change as Americans grow older here. The baby boomers and more people entering senior facilities. So you guys are state of the art. And you cut to the chase, because I think a lot of times you get in a situation and maybe it's a little dire. Things are happening very quickly and you need answers. And there's a lot of paperwork and you guys can expedite the process,
yes.
Right, Denise?
As soon as they engage our services, we hit the ground running. Our team is working with them immediately to help call the insurance company, call that IRA, things that people just don't really know how to do on their own, or they run into a lot of roadblocks. We're there to essentially hold their hand and get through this.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And Steve, I wanted to talk to you. I think a lot of people think, well, he's an attorney, but elder law is different, and I would imagine getting more complex. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. There's a federal law that controls all this, but each state kind of treats it a little bit differently, and it's even worse than that. Each county within the state will interpret the law a little bit differently. So we always have to stay on top of our game, always have to do that research. And one thing that's important to keep in mind, because I got this one this morning, people calling in and asking right off the bat, well, how much is this going to cost? Well, it's not going to cost anything to sit down and talk to me. I'm not going to charge you anything to talk to you. Elder advisors ain't going to cost. It's not going to cost anything to talk to them because we haven't done anything. We kind of don't want to say I'm a doctor or they're doctors,
Right.
but we got to diagnose the problem before we can figure out what we do. So I don't want anybody to ever hesitate to reach out to us just to talk, to find out if there are solutions out there that they can take advantage of.
One thing that becomes very obvious right away when you talk to the professionals here at Elder Advisors is you're all very compassionate. I mean, you really do care, and there's a lot to be said for that. It's one thing to be an expert in a field. It's another to say, I want the best outcome for each individual family, and that happens. Denise, if you would, workshops that are coming up. Talk a little bit about those and exactly what will transpire. Is it a Q&A? Is it experts like Steve and yourself coming up and speaking? What exactly happens?
Well, we have a workshop on Monday at 6 p.m. at the 4 Point Sheraton Hotel on Crittenden Drive in Louisville. And then we'll also have one in Clarksville at 10 a.m. at the Hampton Inn. And Larry is a presenter, of course. I'm going to speak on the topic of, you know, the perspective of a caseworker and how they're kind of analyzing your case and the rules that are in place that can help you. And then Steve, of course, is going to speak on the legal matters. Yeah,
because, I mean, this is, like I said, what I think happens with families. I don't think I know because I've had friends who have gone through similar little instances here. And what happens is you're emotionally tied to it, one. You know nothing about the process, two. So the odds are really stacked against you to just go start writing checks. And you say there's a better answer, don't go broke.
Yes.
You don't have to go broke, and it's so overwhelming for folks to have somebody that will literally hold your hand through this process to help you gather those documents that you need. Sit down at your kitchen table to talk to you and work through this. So many of my clients, they can't come into my office to visit, so you just got to make those house calls, and that's what I do. It's what Elder Advisors does, and we're very, very blessed to be able to get to do this job.
Yep. You know, I have fun on the show when Larry Weiss comes on here. He's flamboyant, something, but I do think that he is someone who really genuinely cares, and he's smart enough, like he said, to surround himself with professionals. So speak to Larry in his role. If you had to describe to a peer or maybe a potential client, what does Larry do for Elder Advisors?
Well, Larry has been in this business for over 20 years. He's an expert in this business. He literally works around the clock.
He's the Energizer Bunny.
He is the Energizer
He really
Bunny.
is.
He really is.
Without a doubt. He works from, I mean, he's working at midnight. I wake up at 6 a.m. He's sending emails out at 4 a.m. I mean, he never stops. He is truly passionate about these families that he's working with. I mean, this is his livelihood. This is his life. He is truly invested in these families, and he just wants to help them as much as possible.
Yep, I believe that.
Yes,
well, he speaks very highly of both of you, Denise and Steve. And you
I don't know if that's a good thing, though.
Let's put the information on the workshops up there one more time. There's a lot of questions. You'll get a lot of answers, courtesy of Elder Advisors. If you would, Steve, invite them out. Invite them on out.
Yeah, oh, yeah, please come out. Elder Advisors Workshops. We're going to do one at 4 Points by Sheraton on September 10th at 6 p.m. And then we're also going to do one over at Clarksville in Indiana on September 11th at 10 a.m. Whether you're from Kentucky or Indiana, come on over to Kentucky. Kentucky, come on over to Indiana. Everybody's welcome. Doesn't cost you a thing. We'll sit down and chit-chat, try to solve your problems.
All righty. Denise, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah, I could see, you know, you being on that other side of the fence, there's a real advantage there strategically. And, of course, with your elder law expertise, Steve, you're a perfect piece in the puzzle there.
Very blessed.
Definitely.
Very blessed.
All right, once again, get out to one of those workshops. More information. Don't go broke in a nursing home. Elder Advisors.